If you're starting to make a video game, you're probably coming to Unreal Engine from other platforms like Unity 3D or Godot, and you're like, well, I don't want to watch the absolute most easiest tutorials, and I kind of want to start with a game and I just want to jump in. Number one, jumping in to a video game and getting your hands dirty is probably the easiest way to learn. It definitely beats sitting on your ass and watching a tutorial all the time. So today I'm going to take you through Lyra as a project, and we're going to talk about Lyra, and we're going to talk about a couple different concepts, and we're going to go through that and think about it and explain, like if I had a rubber duck in my hand, how I would want to develop something, and internal monologue and all that crap. Okay, this project is Unreal Engine 5.3.2. If there's an update in the future, at least you understand that, so that's just where I'm coming from. Okay, the big thing about Lyra is that Lyra takes the gameplay ability system, otherwise called GAS, and it extends upon it, because you can extend any class in Unreal, and it implements it in its own unique way, similar to how Epic Games has developed Fortnite. So if I were to go and open this content drawer, and you will see all this shit the first time you come into the engine with this project, you'll see, oh, there's classically the content folder, right? That's most of the time when you see your Unreal Engine games, you're like, oh, it's all in the content folder. Well, the new thing, it's not necessarily new, but it's like a better practice, is that you use plugins. Okay, so if I go to my plugins tab, you'll see that Shooter Core, Shooter Explorer, Shooter Maps, Shooter Test, Top Down Arena. These are all plugins that we can attach to our project to give the player different experiences. As you can see, I have my BCam base and my BCam zombies, because I was making a clone of that shitty body cam game, and I was like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to show people how to make that and then show them how to make a zombies? That's what plugins are for. It's about modular assets that you plug in to a core game in order to get your experiences delivered to your player. Just like how Fortnite does it, whether it's Fortnite Battle Royale, Fortnite Legos, or Fortnite Rocket League Racing. Those are all experiences, those are all plugins. Okay, so let's get started. The whole thing with Lyra, like I said, is that it's based on gameplay ability system. The way that gameplay ability system works is that you have your gameplay actors and you give them abilities which are just the capabilities to do things. It's not necessarily like a power-up like shooting a fireball, but it's also maybe an ability like shooting a weapon or reloading a weapon. Once you start to think in this sort of paradigm with abilities, everything starts to make a lot more sense, and it's a lot easier to organize in order to actually work on your game. So if I were to search for, let's just search for a weapon right here. Oh wait, no. In Lyra, they use the GA prefix for the most part for gameplay ability. You don't have to do this, but it's just kind of what they do when they're just showing people stuff. So we got Hero Dash right here. Let's go ahead and edit this. If you take a look at how the ability starts, there's always an activate ability event. So that event gets called for that ability. And then the ability has to be handled in its lifetime. So you can either cancel it or you come over here and end the ability. Okay? That's the basic gist of the ability, the gameplay ability system. Okay, so you give an actor an ability component system which tracks all of the abilities that it could have and could execute. You stack them on top of each other like you're throwing suitcases on that guy from that traveling game that Hideo Kojima made a couple years ago. And then you can just pop them whenever you want, and then you get these nice little gameplay effects. It's a really great way to, again, work on your game, and we'll go through an example. I'll show you how to set one up just real quick, etc. Okay? The next thing that's important to understand is because the gameplay ability system is pretty heavy at the start, especially if you're new to it, you really want to get used to using your reference viewer. This shows you how things are connected in your game. And even if you don't use Lyra, it's really important to use reference viewers so you can actually close your projects, step into them, and say, all right, where did I leave off and what do I kind of want to do? Okay? The best way to access Reference Viewer, you can just right click and see Reference Viewer, or the best way, in my opinion, is just to use shortcuts. So Shift, Alt, and R on whatever asset you want to look at, and there you go. You've got its references. You can change the depth of these references and searching, the dependencies, how wide it is. So if I just change this to 2, it goes from one reference to its next one, and then it takes a look at those references. You don't have to change this by default. The engine will warn you if there's more dependencies that just aren't visible, so just keep that in mind. Okay, if I double click on an item, it'll set that as the reference focus. So just think of it like going up and down a chain. Okay, but you can see that a lot of these abilities, they have tags, because that's how the ability system works, and they get housed in these data assets, which you can set up a class that changes the actual structure of the data asset, so they don't have to be like the exact same data asset. That way you're not stuck at like looking at data tables, and those are ran on structs, so whatever. Think of data assets as data tables on crack, and then everything will go nice and smooth. Okay, and then if I just wanted to edit something or focus on it, I just get Control E, right click, edit, click on, one of these things, expand all. If it's got extra hidden little tabs, it'll expand all of them. And now you can see all these items that make up this particular data asset. You can just look at the class here in the upper right hand corner. If it uses a gameplay ability tag and you want to see where that tag's used, right click, double click, or just single click, and you can attach these references. And I'm pretty sure if I do this little drop down, trying to see, here we go. Right click, search for references. Then you can see where this ability tag is used. Again, pulls you right back into Reference Viewer. It's a lot easier to do it this way with ability tags. Just keep that in mind. Okay, so now that we understand that, and we got that out of the way, so you understand that you want to make modular plugins, you want to use the gameplay ability system to attach abilities that your player can use, the AI could use, maybe some actor in your scene could use. So let's go ahead and hit play. We'll talk about the experiences, right? This is like a game mode, right? Single player, multiplayer, zombies, a gameplay experience where you're a dog and you can see people take shits. It doesn't matter, it's just that, hey, you make an experience, and that's what, when the player steps into it, I stepped into the default one. It just loaded again. Okay. Now, I've already modified this. Fuck that guy. But that's the idea, okay? You load into an experience, and then that experience... Let me turn off this audio because it's probably loud as hell. That experience is going to take care of running the game, setting it up, however else you want to do it in your actual video game. You don't have to 100% copy everything Lyra does, but again, it was made by Epic, and they kind of ran it and based it around how they did Fortnite, so it's probably a good thing to maybe at least understand, etc. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the nitty-gritty, and I'll give you an example of, let's make an ability with our character. Let's just try and change the camera mode. That's always a pretty big one. Lyra starts out as third person, and they don't have a first person mode, so that would be a great example. And most of the stuff I've already made, it's already pre-made. So let's go ahead and search for how do we store camera modes? If you don't know how they're stored, I suppose you could just try CM underscore. That's just, unfortunately, the way that they name things, you're just gonna have to know it, I guess, the first time when you're going through it. Okay, so now that we have our camera mode, we have arena framing camera, first person camera. Well, this one that I made, sorry. So we'll not jump into that quite yet. Third person camera, that's the default. So let's go ahead and look at its references, right? Third person camera is set up as a 5.3 to use the Hero Data shooter game and default game label data assets. So instead of just changing this, I want to see Well, how is that used in Hero Data Shooter Game? So I double click on it just to take a look at what's going on. There's my zombies game that I made, etc. Right? So I'm going to go ahead and edit this asset. I'm going to expand everything just so I can see. And we can see right here the default camera mode is whatever it is that we set up for this data asset. So when this data asset Hero Data Shooter Game runs, and we can see where that's referenced, then it's going to load the pawn class, the ability set, the tag relationships, the input data, and the camera mode. Okay, so let's go ahead and change this just real quick to our first person. Okay, I've already made it, but if you didn't have it made, you'd say, oh, okay, I want to change, let's go back to third person right here. I want to browse to the asset. That's a good move. I want to control and duplicate, so control D right here. And then I want to name it to first person, and then I want to open it up. Oh, golly gee, our first person camera mode is got a whole bunch of shit in it, but how they generally control the camera mode is this offset curve. Okay, so now I go, oh, when I duplicated it, it had third person offset curve. Go find it, find that offset curve, duplicate that, then we're going to open it, and then we'll change the offset curves. This is the offset of the camera from the player. I'm pretty sure it's the relative to where you put the character in the blueprint. So in this case, I set everything to 0. And you can change this view right here in the upper left-hand corner. I like looking at it in stacked mode just because it's just so much easier. Okay, adjust that curve, everything to 0, save it, come back into your first person, your new asset, set that your offset curve, right? Save it, close. Then we're going to come back into our shooter core hero data so that when we run this, instead of running third person, we'll run first person and save it. So if I go back over to here, you don't have to start off here at the default experience. You can start wherever you want, but yeah. Let's just go in here to control. There we go, I'm in first person. Now I'm executing the ability for aim down sight, which I already set it to ADS first person. And there we go. In that example, we've made a really rough... God, I hate the audio in this. In this example, we've made a really rough, different change to the camera mode by using reference viewer and looking at the assets in the actual experience and working backwards. We just did a duplication of assets. Okay? That was easy. Let's try something a little bit harder. In this case, we're going to change. Let's take a look at our blueprints. We're going to change. Let's do. I don't want to do inventory. That's too much. That's too much for new people. Sorry. Okay. Let's do sprinting. Okay. So in default Lyra, when you start off, your gameplay ability that you're given to you on a list in Shooter Core includes what's called gameplay ability _ hero dash. Okay, so if I take hero dash and we go search for it, remember if you click on something and then you search, it's only going to search in that. So I'm going to click on all, GA, hero dash. Okay, we're going to open this up. Sorry, Control B. Damn it, I should just use the goddamn shortcuts. Okay, so if we wanted to sprint, and I don't have a sprint one set up, so I'm just going to walk you right through it. So we would just duplicate. Again, you don't have to put it in this folder. Here, 0. Sprint, right? So now that we open it, everything in this ability is what gets ran when you activate the ability. So let's, instead of setting this up, because nobody wants to watch me set this shit up on blueprints, there's a ton of sprint tutorials. Go look that up. This is not the place. Once you got that set up, right, we just need to tell our system okay, where is hero dash used, right? And what do I need to replace it with? And where we need to replace it is when we look at our references, hero dash belongs to this ability set. So if we go and we edit this asset, this is where the actual meat and potatoes is in Lyra. So let's go ahead and expand everything. So of this data asset, ability set underscore shooter hero. So your brain's probably ticking. Hey, I can maybe add an ability set for zombies. Wow, right? Maybe you have default abilities that you want to give to people. Maybe you want to grant some possible abilities, like, in zombies, one of the power ups is double points or instant kill or, zombie blood where it doesn't matter. But you want to think about, oh, it's an ability set. I want to grant it to my player in this particular game mode. So that's where I want to create this entire data structure. And that's the entire point of this. It's all about managing data structures. Okay, so we're in ability set, shooter hero. It doesn't matter what the index is. These all get evaluated and they get added on at runtime. We can see that we give our hero a jump ability. We give them a death ability, right? Because that's the ability to die. Because that would be really boring if we, didn't give that to our player. We give them dash. Here's where dash lives. Emote, quick bar slots, right, for the HUD. ADS FPS, that's where I right-clicked and instead of ADSing in third person, it ADS'd in first person. This is not part of Lyra. This is a ability that I added myself. A grenade, drop weapon, that's a new one that I added. Thanks to Dev Kitty Diaries for that one. Melee, spawn effect, reset, the ability to actually reset stuff, and then unequipped weapon, another one from Dev Kitty. Okay? So I hope it's making a lot of sense that the ability for you to take a data structure, stuff your abilities into it so that you can grant it either by default or grant it at some other time, right? If I make a zombies and I make a juggernog perk, I want to add an ability to grant to you where you get double health, triple health. Maybe there's an ability that a zombie drops where you have invincibility. That's the idea, okay? So let's go in here to hero dash. Where was it? And this is where you would just pick the drop down and actually replace it. So instead of hero dash, we would just have hero sprint. So when you take one ability away and you don't grant it in any sort of fashion, then it's just gone, right? So this is stuff that gets evaluated at runtime at the beginning of your experience. So you can still grant your player the hero dash, but they're not going to get it at default, right? So that's what this little data asset does. So we'll go ahead and we'll go back from hero sprint to hero dash, save that, and now we want to go back to our reference viewer and say, okay, if we click on you, where do you get set up? So where's the ability set for shooter hero getting set up? And it's set up in the hero data for shooter game. And you can see hero data for explore. So these are two different experiences that are loading this ability set. And when the ability set is loaded, the ability set has all these abilities and these tags, because that's how the gameplay ability system works, is by tag signaling. And that's how the actual game is glued together, right? Think of it like all of these things as like Lego bricks. And you can combine them in multiple different ways in order to create your Lego masterpiece. Isn't that just what Legos are at the end of the day? There's these little 1x4 bricks, 2x4, flat pieces, Lego heads. These are the Lego pieces, and this stuff is the Lego game, okay? So let's go ahead and go into shooter game right here. Now we can start to see some blueprints being attached to these data assets. They control these data assets. So there's the camera mode, by the way. Remember how we set that up? There's the input configuration. Let's take a look at our input here. And you can see that what we're really doing is we just keep making these little boxes. And this component maybe knows about it, but this component way down the line doesn't, because it doesn't need to. You don't need to have this massive overlap with your components knowing about other things that aren't really their concern. They just need to execute their big idea, right? So I need to execute the big idea of shooter game. Okay, what's in shooter game? Well, there's an input class because our players need input. This input class is going to handle executing the big idea of ability dash, ability heal, auto run, crouch, whatever. It doesn't matter. Okay? You can make one for keyboard. You can make one for mouse. Or sorry, keyboard and mouse, and you can make one for controller, right? I hope the idea is becoming a lot more obvious. Okay? So, again, a data structure. Expand everything. Native input actions. Ability input actions. Right? This is the ability to do an ability. God, that's a tongue twister. Let's go ahead and close that. Close this one. Close that. We don't need it. Man, there's just a ton of stuff. Okay. You will eventually get to some other data structures like this. This is an asset base, right? So if I go to, this is a Lyra experience definition. All of this stuff eventually unravels itself to what are called experience definitions. So if I can, I can't run a control B on that, but we'll go up here, we'll find it. Type in, B underscore, oh yeah, that's right, it's in my plugins. Okay. So in my plugin, if you guys don't know how to set up gameplay features or plugins, go watch a video, but in your plugin, you'll have a data asset that talks about how your plugin's actually used, whether it's loaded or active or all these other asset management crap like dependencies. You can edit the plugin right here. There's the picture, stuff like that. We're going to go in here to our blueprint. No, sorry, experiences folder. Apologies. And then if I go to, again, with reference viewer, Alt-Shift-R. We already have it open. Sorry. Ooh, wow, that didn't work. Alt-Shift-R. Thank you. This experience definition holds a bunch of these data assets and big picture blueprints that set up the stage, right? So if you go and watch a play, right, and on one night they have Hamlet, and the other night they have Romeo and Juliet, the experience is the play, right? It's got all the dressing. It's got all of how everything works, because there's a ton of people behind the scenes and that makes plays happen, whether it's a costumer, a person who does lighting, sound, etc., right? That's what the whole point is of this with Lyra is you make an experience, you stuff the experience full of these data assets, okay, and then they just happen, right? So, damn, we're at 23 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up real quickly, but the basic idea with everything here is that with Lyra, we can make structured approaches to creating games that a lot of people, especially new game designers or developers, especially on your smaller projects, you guys really kind of need this structure because learning this structure is going to help you out when you start working more with a team. If you work with a team, you need to have structure so that you guys aren't running into each other constantly, okay? That's just the point. That's all that matters. It's what's the big picture for getting these assets, and I'll show you this. Oops, sorry. Yep. Sorry, didn't mean to do that. But that's the big picture with this stuff for getting everything to work. Here's a component, right? That's elimination. Team deathmatch scoring, right? Because this is just, I haven't set it up yet, but this is where I would actually change it. So I go in here, right click edit, and I can change the components, right? Team deathmatch scoring. In zombies, I don't need it. I need zombie scoring, right? So that's what I would do. So instead of making this, I'd say, let's go find this asset. Let's take a look at it. Okay, this is how the scoring is set up, right? So I would duplicate this and then set up, instead of team deathmatch scoring, I'd set up zombie scoring. It's that simple. Maybe you want to have zombie scoring for single player, multiplayer with opposing teams, etc. Doesn't matter. That's just how it is. Okay. So the world is your oyster in that regards. And I hope you guys feel a little bit better about understanding the big picture of Lyra. And I hope this 25 minutes was better than what most people do when they look at Lyra and they just completely fumble their way through everything. Start with the big picture, then move to your features, piece them together like Lego pieces, and that's your game. And that's all you got to do. All right? Have fun.